Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm James for Kit Guru, and you can see on the bench today we've got an absolute stack of hardware, so that can only mean one thing. It's time for a build video. This one's going to be a little different to what you're used to seeing on the channel, so we hope you enjoy it. And before I get into all the details of what's going on here, I just want to quickly say to you guys that have not subscribed to the channel yet and you're enjoying this content, please don't forget today, hit that subscribe button and subscribe to the Kit Guru channel. If you want to help us out and support us in other ways, you can always head over to our store and pick up some of the cool Kit Guru merch that you see the guys wearing in these videos. And don't forget, there's also obviously the kitguru.net website, and we have our Facebook and Twitter pages where you can catch up on all the latest tech news and all the latest hardware reviews. So recently, Seasonic got in touch with us, asking us if we could maybe build something different, something unique, and kind of in the Seasonic style. So our boss at Kit Guru was very interested, he liked the sound of that, and then got in touch with me to see what I can do with a bunch of hardware and a nice size case. So the plan for all this hardware is to build a system that is completely unique and kind of matching the Seasonic style. So we have a huge case. This is the Fractal Define 7, this is the XL, this is the big boy, so inside here we'll be able to fit a ton of hardware in there. And what we're going to do with that case is we're going to do some mods to it, so it will make it unique and individual and stand out. So the actual name of this project, we're going to call it the Seasonic AURA build. So we're going to take this case, use this hardware and build something unique. So when I say build something unique, I'm talking maybe mod the case out, do some work on the panels, maybe have some laser cut logos, custom lighting, mod maybe parts of the motherboard, graphics card, more or less, you know, do what we think's right and what we think will be in keeping with the Seasonic style. So it's going to be kind of a blue and black theme with chrome, aluminium highlights. We're going to have Seasonic logos cut in the power supply and in other panels, and just basically, you know, do whatever we think will match with the style. So for this Seasonic AURA project, the platform will be an Intel Z490. So the motherboard we're going for is this Gigabyte Z490 Vision D. And the reason I've chose this is I just fancied a change really. I've built a lot of systems recently with AURA's motherboards and I just fancied looking at something different. So this is labelled as a content creator's motherboard, whatever that means. It's still perfectly fine for gaming or anything else you want to do with it. But the great thing about this board is it fits in perfectly with the style, and you can see what I mean by that when you take it out of the box. It matches perfectly with the style we're going for. It's quite subtle. It's got a combination of black and brushed aluminium heat sinks, which is going to perfectly match in with the style we're going for. And there are some lighting areas on this board, so this I/O shroud lights up, and so does this logo down at the bottom on the PCH heatsink. They both light up in blue, which is going to be perfect for this system. So that's the motherboard, Z490. And then to complement that motherboard, we've gone for the 10th generation Intel Core i9-10850K. Obviously, I'm a northerner, I'm from Yorkshire, so I like to look after my money, so we went for the 10850K because it's a little bit cheaper than the 10900K, but according to what I've read, you're still going to get about the same performance as the 10900K, so it makes sense to buy this 10850K. We might have a little bit of overclocking headroom. Apparently this overclocks more or less just as well as a 10900K, so we'll see how that performs later on when we get this system built up. I can't wait to have a look at that CPU actually. I'm really interested actually in buying one of them for my own system, so yep, can't wait to have a look at that. In terms of memory, we've got 32 gigabytes of this Corsair Vengeance RGB, Vengeance RGB Pro, 32 gig, 3200 megahertz, and this is the black heatsink version. I'm thinking maybe we might be able to do something with these heat sinks. I was originally thinking we might do some electroplating, then I realised that they're probably made out of aluminium, the heat sinks, so that might be a little bit tricky. So instead, we might take the heat sinks off and maybe strip the paint off them or the coating and try and polish them up or something like that, so that they match in with the theme of the build a little better. I mean, being black, they would match anyway, but I just fancy doing something with them to see if we can spice things up a bit. I actually have a dummy kit here, so I might practice on the dummy kit before I actually use the real thing. So we'll see about that later on as well. So for graphics, we might have slipped up a little bit, I'm afraid. We actually planned this system before Nvidia launched, or before Nvidia announced the RTX 3000 series, so we're stuck with the 2080 Super for now. Hopefully Gigabyte might feel sorry for us and send us a 3080 when they're available, who knows, but for now we're stuck with this. This is the Gigabyte RTX 2080 Super water force, so this has a built-in water block on the GPU. Again, we're going to look at maybe doing some mods at this with this, possibly make up a custom backplate, have that etched or laser cut with some Seasonic logos or something like that, just again to match in with this. We'll probably do that out of a brushed aluminium as well, so again this will match in nicely with these brushed aluminium parts on the motherboard. But yeah, we'll take a look at that later on as well, see what we can do with that. And then for storage, we have 3 Western Digital drives. We've got the WD Blue SN550, that's a 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, so that'll be nice and quick for installing the operating system, or maybe get 1 or 2 games on, or whatever we're going to do with this system. And then, because we know how much storage you need for games these days, we've got 2 WD Blue 1 terabyte SATA SSD drives. So there should be enough storage there for most people. Obviously, you've always got the chance to upgrade your storage later on pretty easily, so that's not a big issue. And then powering this system, obviously, it's a Seasonic power supply. This is the Seasonic Prime TX1000, titanium rated, maybe a little overkill for the CPU GPU combination we've got at the moment, but it's titanium rated, so it's very efficient and it gives you plenty of scope for upgrading in the future. As well as all that lot, we also have a huge box full of Alphacool cooling hardware. We have gone with a Alphacool Eisbacher D5 250mm pump res combo. So obviously that will be using a D5 pump inside. We've got some Alphacool Eiswasser crystal blue premix coolant, so that again will fit in nicely with the blue and black theme. Got a couple of bottles of that. For the tubing, we're going with a hardline tubing setup. It's actually going to be using a brass chrome tubing because we're kind of going for a subtle but kind of industrial style look to this build, and again we think that the chrome tubing, that'll fit in perfectly with this kind of style that we've got going on, with the bits of aluminium and a bit of a black, blue and a chrome aluminium theme to it. So yeah, chrome tubing. Same goes for the fittings. All the fittings are going to be being chrome, so we've got tons of different fittings and drain valves, everything like that. The CPU block is this Alphacool Eisblock XPX CPU block, and we've chosen the black acetal version. So as you can see, that has a black acetal top, and again we've got a bit of blue Alphacool illumination at the bottom there to match in with the system theme. In terms of actual cooling potential, we're going to be using 2 of these Alphacool Nexus XT45 radiators. These are both 360mm. We've got 2 of these, 360mm long and 45mm thick, so they should offer us plenty of cooling surface area. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably fit one in the top of the case and then one down at the front, so they should fit nicely with this build. What else do we have? Yes, of course, the fans. I've chosen these NZXT Air P120 fans. Obviously these are high static pressure fans, so they'll work perfectly on these radiators, and we can also use them as case fans. And the reason I chose these is they have kind of a bezel around the outside of the fan blade, and you can remove that bezel. So we might be able to do something with that. We might be able to paint it, maybe hydro dip it, but do something to give it a bit of a custom look that'll match in with the rest of this system. So obviously this isn't going to be built in a day. We're going to be doing lots of mods to this system. So this is probably going to be a 3, maybe 4 part video. So if you want to see what actually happens with all this lot and what we end up creating in the end, you will have to stick around for a bit, but we'll try and make this as entertaining as possible for you. And we're going to obviously try and capture all the mods, everything we do on the video as well. So it should give you an idea of how the different procedures are done as well. We're planning on doing laser cutting panels. Obviously that's not something I'm going to be doing myself here, but I do have a friend that works for a company, a local company called Specialized Laser Products, and they're based just around the corner from me, so we can head down there and see what they do. We're planning a few different Seasonic logos and things cut into panels. Obviously the power supply shroud, that's going to be one area that we'll be working on. We'll probably have to remove the shroud out of this case and maybe have a completely new custom shroud made. That's something that'll be interesting. The Seasonic Prime TX1000 power supply is an excellent power supply. The cables are not the best looking things in the world, so that is one area we'll be working on. I'll be building custom cables from scratch and sleeving those with some PET cable sleeving, so we'll run you through all that process as well. We'll also be doing some custom lighting, but that we'll be keeping that as subtle as possible as well, because obviously we want to keep with the Seasonic theme, and Seasonic are not really an RGB bling kind of company. It'll be more subtle and unique, but it will be, you know, just as interesting, I think, to see the final product. So I think that's given you a bit of a rundown of what we're planning on doing with this system and the hardware that we're using. For this first part of the series, we'll have a look at what kind of preparation we're going to need to do to that case to get it ready for the panels making and laser cutting. So that's what we'll jump into next. So before we dive into doing any mods on this case and start chopping any panels up or anything, I need to just kind of lay everything out, make sure everything's going to fit how I want it to, make sure that the radiator outlets will be in the right positions and everything like that, and just completely lay out the system before we start chopping this case up. So first I'm just going to drop the motherboard in position. All we really need to do is check on the radiators and where this pump rest combo is going to fit. So I'll just try and hold that motherboard in position just temporarily with a couple of screws. Just one in the top and bottom. That'll be enough just to hold it for now. Just while we put things in the case, and take this top panel off. That doesn't need to be on for now. And that dust filter can go as well, we don't need that. So one of the radiators obviously is going to fit at the top of the case. And in fact, this case has a removable radiator bracket. You can see you just take a couple of screws out either side and that lifts out of position. But we don't need to take that out just for this job, because we're only putting things in temporarily. I think one radiator will fit in the top that way around, so we can just try and hold that in position as well with a couple of temporary screws for now. Just give those a little nip up, there's no need to be tightening them up fully for now. So yeah, that looks like a good spot for that. That's a good thing about this case, there's a lot of space between that radiator and the motherboard, so it's still got room for some fans to go in there before we get near these bits on the motherboard, the heat sinks for the VRMs and power connectors and the RAM as well, obviously, so that's good. Got plenty of room to play with there. Then the other radiator will be going at the front of the case, and the thing I wanted to check out really was whether we can fit that radiator in while leaving these cover plates still on the power supply shroud, because this power supply shroud is going to be coming out. We're going to be having a custom made power supply shroud with maybe a powered by Seasonic laser cut logo or something down at the bottom there, and then illuminate that with some blue LED lighting. So that looks good. It looks like we could fit that radiator in there, no problem, and still have those covers on there. But I think on the new power supply shroud, those covers won't be removable. That'll just be a solid panel. And then the pump res combo will probably also fit in there, maybe raised up a little bit. And that should be able to either be fixed down onto the power supply shroud or onto this panel at the back here. Probably fix it to the power supply shroud because that'll be made out of aluminium. This panel here is only plastic, so it should hold it nice and sturdy. But that looks pretty good. We've got a lot of space in this case, so maybe I don't know whether this pump res may move a little bit further this way to allow a bit of space between the radiator and the fans. There's even potential we could run push-pull fans on that radiator at the front as well. So yeah, that all looks good for now. I like the look of that. So now I know that we're going to be all right with those radiators in those positions and have plenty of space. I think the next thing really to do is to remove this power supply shroud from this case, and that'll be just drilling out the rivets. Hopefully we can just drill out the rivets and get this power supply shroud out pretty easily and send that to my mate to use that as a template to make up the new one. So we'll whip these bits back out again and have a look at that, removing that power supply shroud. So to get this power supply shroud out of the case without damaging it, I'm gonna have to probably drill out a series of rivets. There'll probably be some along the bottom of the case here, along this panel, at the back of the case, and probably a couple along the front as well. So first thing I'll do, I'll remove this front panel. I don't need that on for now, so that can come out of the way. I'm also going to remove this rear fan because we're not going to be using the fractal fan. And get that out of the way. And then just undo the wiring. So that's the fan out of the way, we don't need that for now. And just unhook the cables from around the back. Just push those out of the way for now. And I think that should probably be enough stuff out of the way. I may just remove these hard drive caddies as well, just to stop those interfering. Looks like they're installed from the bottom. Yeah, we can take those out, get those out of the way as well. Yes, they come out from the back, that's good. Get both of those out of the way. So that should be probably everything out of the way that's going to stop me getting this power supply shroud out. Just unclip these two plastic panels. Don't need those. Looks as though there's probably 3 rivets at the back, 3 along here, and 1 or 2 at the front, and then there's another 3 probably on the bottom as well. To remove the rivets, you just need to take your drill and then find the ones that are actually holding the power supply shroud in. And that's one. That looks like one. And possibly that one. So there's 3 at the back here. Take it off hammer. Need a nice sharp drill bit for this. Just have to drill the heads off so they're completely gone. That's one. Just have to watch out for those being hot. Try and pull the heads off when you drill them. Get a bit hot from drilling. That's another one off. And then this one here is for the power supply shroud. So that's those 3 out of the way. There's 3 here as well on this side of the case. Just drill those 3 out. That's that one. That's the second one. That's that one out. And then around the front, looks like there's just these 2 at the front, so we'll drill those out as well. That's one. That's another one out. And it looks like there's 4 along the bottom here. That's one. That's the second one out. That's one more. Should just be the final one at the end. And that's that one out. So now that they're out of the way, just pull these rubber grommets out. Save those for the new power supply shroud. And then, hopefully, with a bit of persuasion, we should be able to release this. Maybe we can just bend it out a little bit. That's it. So we managed to get it out without having to detach any other panels. So that's the power supply shroud out. Now that's a great template for measuring, to measure up the obviously to measure up the new one. And the new one, I don't think it's going to have this cutout in it. I think it'll just be a flat top, and I think these vents might go as well. We won't really need those vents in there with the radiator bin above this power supply shroud. There'll not really be any need for any airflow underneath there. The power supply shroud, the power supply will have its own airflow supply, pulling air in from the bottom and out at the back. So yeah, that's that out of the way. Right, I've just cleared up the mess that I made from drilling all those rivets out. I've set the case to the side now because I don't think there's really anything else I need to do in terms of preparation for that for now. But what we need to do next is prepare this side panel because along the bottom of this side panel we're going to have a big Seasonic logo laser cut out of there with some acrylic behind and then illuminated in a blue LED lighting to match what's going on the power supply shroud. But one issue with this side panel is it's got this bitumen soundproof coating, and according to my mate at the laser cutting place, if we try and laser cut this panel with this coating on, it's likely to set on fire. So the plan is to remove this before we take it down there. So just a bit more preparation before we take it down. And I've just started picking away at one of the corners of this, and it looks like it should come off pretty easily. So I'm just going to use my old scraper and see if we can just lift it up. Okay, so it's not as easy as it first looked, but it is working. So this might just take a bit of time to get it all off. Seems like that first corner wasn't bonded on very well. The rest of it is really quite tough, actually. Seems to be tougher in some places than others, so just try and get as much of this off as possible with the scraper, and then try and clean up what's left over afterwards. Well, that was tougher than I expected. I don't think I'll be going to gym this week. Well, I would do anyway normally, but that's something I don't want to have to be doing again in a hurry. We got all the top layer off, but there is still a bit of residue left over from where it was really stuck down. So I need to now figure out how I'm going to clean that off. So I'll have a look, see what I've got in the cupboard. I'm guessing it's going to need some kind of solvent based cleaner probably to get that off, but we'll have a go, see what we can do. Okay, so I've been raiding the cupboards and I've tried a few different cleaning products, and it turns out that the best thing to get this sticky residue off is terps or white spirit. So I'll use that with some paper towels, get this residue off, and then probably just to clean off the terps afterwards, just go over it with some soapy water, and then it should be ready then for laser cutting. So let's see if we can get all this off. So, So as you can see, that's cleaned that up pretty well, and with minimal effort as well, so I'm really happy with it, how that's gone. All I need to do now really is just give it a rinse off with some soapy water to get rid of that terp smell. Get rid of the little bits off the other side, and the other side's not really taking any damage, so that's good to see. Now that's ready now for laser cutting. Okay, so there's a couple of other things that need preparing before we take the other parts down for laser cutting. One is I need to find an old SATA SSD drive because I'm planning on having some covers made up for those laser cut covers, maybe with a Seasonic Prime logo etched onto those covers, something like that, and I'm planning to install those on top of the new power supply, so they'll be in view and they'll look good down on top of that. And the other thing is removing this backplate from the GPU, because like the SSD covers, we're having a new backplate made for this, either to replace this backplate or to be bonded over the top of this. So I'm thinking probably a brushed aluminium backplate, and again with either some kind of Seasonic logo or Seasonic branding, either laser etched or laser cut out of the backplate. So I need to remove this backplate, and again this will be used as a template to make the new piece. We're going to need to dismantle this card, so we'll take out all the screws on the back first. So that's all the screws removed from the back plate, and that now should allow us to remove the cooler from the card. I'm guessing it will be stuck down a little with the thermal compound. If you just carefully prise it apart, there you go, you can see the bare PCB now. Just need to disconnect this will be the RGB lighting plug for that, because there's no fan on this because it's a water cooled card. And now that should give us access to the other screws that hold the back plate in position. It looks like there's just 3 screws that hold this back plate on, so should just be able to remove these 3 screws. And when we have removed them, the back plate should be free to come off. Yep, there we go. And there you can see the back of the GPU. There's a lot going on the back of that GPU. In fact, it's busier on the back of that card than it is on the front, so that's interesting to see. And on this back plate, we've also got some thermal pads, so we're probably better off putting those back onto the card now so that we don't lose those while we're having this new back plate made. So they all look like they're back in the correct positions, and now we've got the bare back plate. We could take that with us and use that as a template for the new one. Just need to make sure we don't lose any of these screws. What I usually like to do with the screws when I've taken them out is kind of put them back where they came from. So got the 3 small ones, they fit back into the back plate. So we'll keep those with that. And then the rest of these screws, these can go back in the positions where they came out of the cooler. So there's 4 that actually hold the water block down to the actual GPU. And they're ones with the springs on, 4 little screws with springs on so that you get the correct tension. And then there's another 3 here at the back where the VRMs are. So that's the VRM heatsink, so we'll just put those back in. There's no need to tighten them in too tight. Just make sure that they're not going to fall out easily. So just tighten them up a bit. That keeps them nice and safe, so we shouldn't lose those. We just need to keep this GPU so that these thermal pads don't fall off. So I think that's everything prepared, ready for the laser cutting. So I'm going to get all the bits together and take them down to where we'll be having the stuff laser cut, and that is something that we'll be covering in the next episode of the Seasonic AURA build. We'll be going down to the laser cutting shop and seeing how the process is done, and we'll get this new GPU backplate covered on, our new power supply shroud, a couple of covers for these SATA SSDs, and that just reminds me we need to find one of those SSD drives to take down as a template, and anything else we need cutting. Obviously the side panel that we removed all that bitumen off, so that'll be laser cut as well. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this first episode of the Seasonic AURA build. If you have, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you keep getting notifications and make sure that you catch up with the next episode. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.